we start with a joke?
What joke you want? Hair plugs?
Wait, this isn't started yet.
It is. Oh,
Yeah. Hair plugs yesterday, toupee today.
Okay, that's started.
Okay, we're started.
Welcome to Wait What?
Wait, what?
Oh my goodness.
We'll have to add in like the clapping and the
Like our
cheering.
audience
Yeah.
participation.
This is in front of a live audience studio.
Live audience.
We get Anna and Gerda going and they go,
in the middle
They
of
leave.
COVID, and there's like all
Oh my goodness,
no
yeah.
people gathering indoors, but we have a lot.
There's
How did that happen?
200 people sitting right in front of us, packed in, sitting right next to each other. That was a joke.
Okay,
of course
so
it is.
what's the topic today? What's the topic?
We are going to be discussing, I don't know, things with weddings. Things that we do say that happens at weddings that
Traditions.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, traditions, that's a good
Yes.
word. That we just don't even question. We don't know where they came from.
Well,
Yeah.
and in the first episode, I brought it. I think I don't remember exactly how I said it, but I brought it up about how when I get married one day, I'm not going to change. I'm not going to take his last name. And so we talk about this all the time. This isn't a new topic, but it kind of got us thinking that we wanted to talk about this because there's a lot of stuff to weddings that have a really misogynistic past, and I think we don't realize it. And so just to be able to talk about it and think about it, I think is really healthy.
I know that's been really
Yeah.
interesting for me now hearing you guys start talking about that kind of stuff because that was just I never questioned any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not that again, we're not saying, because a big thing with this podcast is we're not out to make anything good or bad.
Yeah.
This isn't about good or bad, right or wrong all the time. We did qualify that in the first one as well.
Yeah.
Saying that, if it starts to hurt someone else, yes, that is definitely, there is a line there. But generally, so this isn't about right or wrong, good or bad. It's how does this affect us? Let's just question. And that's the whole point of, wait, what?
Yeah, because I think there are, we've unpacked pretty much every aspect of a wedding you could.
Yeah.
Pretty much every single thing. And some of them, I've decided, I'm not going to do that. That's how I'm going to, that's going to be different when I get married. But there are also things that I'm I would like to do that. I know the history, I understand the history, and I understand the damage that is done to me, but I have worked through that, and now I can just enjoy, the fun of some of the things.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And I will just kind of list off some things, and you guys talk about your, what came from Wait What when you guys did that, because, it never was that for me. I just did all these things,
Well,
that was
that's
the way it
the
was.
interesting
So
thing is, as we go on, the more you question, it kind of has, this effect of, everyone's around you even starts being oh my gosh, I never even thought of that.
okay, so planning a wedding. Let's go to, one of the first things that you ever talk about and go and get, you dream about, whatever, is wedding dress.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, I mean, that's a big one we've talked about. Because I think this is kind of a stereotype in our society that, girls dream about weddings, which I think we can go into further in the future, because I think
I was actually going to say that.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to unpack there as well, because I think that's put on women and girls that this is what you do. You, from little, just are supposed to dream about this. And this is, we talk to little girls from the time they're, 2 about, you're gonna be a mom someday, you're gonna get married, you're gonna do all these
You're
things.
gonna be a wife.
Yeah.
You're gonna run a house.
And so a lot of times girls do end up thinking about this, where they think about their wedding dress and all of these
Yeah.
details.
When they're like 4.
Yeah. Which, not that that's bad, it's just, where does this come from? And
Yes.
so with wedding dresses, I know I was always like, well, just like, I don't know, I'll do that. Which, to clarify, I'm not there yet at all.
Yeah,
This
none
is
of
just
us
like
are,
a
even in a
fun
relationship.
conversation.
We're all single.
Yeah.
Unless you
Oh.
are.
I love how you can say they.
Yeah.
They're all single.
Honestly, she's married, but we're not.
You're like, yeah, one of us is married.
Guess who?
In a happy relationship. Okay, time to rub it in.
Okay,
Just
Kelly.
kidding.
Rabbit trail.
Yeah.
Back to topic.
Over one.
Wedding dress.
Oh my goodness.
So generally, like most people, although I mean that definitely has changed over the years.
Yeah.
But like for example, like when I got married, it was like it definitely had to do with like a pride thing to be able to wear a white wedding dress.
Oh,
like
really?
that was
like what that signified for
yes, because what
yeah.
a white wedding dress generally signified is that
Purity.
you had purity. You had not had sex before marriage.
Yeah.
You were saving yourself for marriage. And so that's why you wore white, and it was
Yeah.
basically a judgment out there if you
Yeah.
saw someone that wasn't wearing a white wedding dress. Like honestly, even in my
Yeah.
own head, that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
If I saw
Yeah.
someone not in a white wedding dress, first thought I had was,
Wow.
oh, they had already had sex.
Yeah.
Like,
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I never even, that's just, I never even questioned it. It was just like, oh, that,
Yeah.
it's not like I even necessarily judged them, although that really is kind of a judgment in itself.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the whole idea of like we're making women a spectacle
Yes.
and like showing off like look how pure I am,
Yeah.
and I'm so much more like worthy, and like all this stuff is so like crazy to think about, that you're literally like wearing a piece of clothing on your day,
Yeah.
on your happy day that's supposed to be about you, and like, oh my gosh, that's just crazy to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of where the issue comes in for me, where over the last couple years, I've started unpacking these things, which I think in future episodes we'll talk more about, like the idea of purity and all of the ramifications that have come along with those kind of teachings.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
That's a whole topic though. Like, it is so
I
long.
am so
Anyways.
excited to talk about that. But,
Yeah.
So this kind of just we'll start that topic.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of problematic to me, is like, no, I may not plan on doing anything like that before I get married, but I don't love that. That is like a symbol that I'm showing people.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that is a piece. You having sex, you deciding what to do with your body sexually, that's a personal decision. And I think a lot of times we make that other people's decisions, and we make that not us. That becomes other people's decisions.
Yeah.
Well, and years ago, it was about everyone else.
Yeah,
though.
that's
Yeah.
true.
So, like,
True.
not a total plug here, but I did really enjoy watching Bridgerton.
Oh my goodness.
And, you know, like there's a lot of reality in there
Yeah.
of how, you know, like a woman's body was not her own.
Yeah.
Well, and I literally think that is today as well. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
women's bodies are their own, even now.
No. Obviously, to a different extent
Yes,
than back then.
exactly. It's
It's
like in
very
a different
different.
way.
Yeah.
But
But we still very much have those beliefs,
Mhm.
right? Like and again, we'll go into this more with purity culture later on, but just the fact that we still wear white, people don't
Yeah.
understand what that meant,
yes.
and it's just a normal, natural thing that we do without even thinking about it.
Well, and that's a thing that I find so crazy. And I shouldn't, because I didn't question it for a long time either. But the fact that, like, most things we do with weddings no one has thought about.
Yeah.
Like, people will constantly get married and change their name, wear a white wedding dress, whatever, do all these things.
Yes.
And those aren't inherently bad things, but it's like, they literally, like, we don't even understand the history of it.
Yes.
So why don't we go to the next step, which is basically, let's go to like walking down the aisle and stuff, because we're kind of leading right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you talked about history, that has huge history
Yeah.
of the dad walking down the aisle, you know, giving away
Oh my
Yeah.
to the man.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, anyway, like it was super important to me that my mom and dad walked me down the aisle. For a couple of reasons. Not that it made my dad anything less. It didn't.
Yeah.
But because both my parents were so important in my life, and it was like, you know, they were I mean, equally important, yet I mean obviously they have their own value because they're two different people, but they were equally important to me, and the decision that I made impacted both of them, and I valued both of their opinions and their thoughts and everything, so that was really important to me as we went.
And that's the thing, because that's really like interesting that you did that, and you didn't maybe like,
well,
like,
that was never done. That was like I cannot remember any other of my friends that did that,
and
or
it,
anyone
like,
else.
without like you weren't doing it because of the history, and yet it just shows how outdated that idea is. So like, let's unpack the whole thing. So like, first of all, that obviously the dad is walking you down the aisle, and then you get to the end, and the priest or whatever is like, who's giving away this bride? I don't know the exact words, whatever. Who's giving away this woman or something?
To be married to this man.
Yeah. And the thing with that is because like marriage didn't used to be like about love. Like marriage wasn't always about love, and I think now it is, and that's awesome. But it wasn't always. It was like an exchange of like a person. Like women were not people.
It's a transaction.
Yeah, a transaction is the perfect word. It was like, you know, and that goes along with changing your last name too, of, you know, your father is giving you away to another man. And like, it's just, I don't know. And like, I think about it, because even we were talking about this literally like earlier, and the thing about that is it almost feels like you're a child, because, you know, the guy is at the end of the aisle, and he's standing there alone as this like put together adult, and you're having your like parents cart you off, which is not bad, because I do want my parents to walk me down the aisle one day, but I just
want the moment.
I do. Like, I was like, oh, maybe he should walk down the aisle too. Like, well, he can walk and then I'll walk. But I want my moment of like, everyone turns their heads and they're like, a soft gasp along the crowd, and you know, I start walking and he's looking at me, tearing up, and you know, the whole shebang. Like, I want that, but but no one will be saying, who gives away this woman? No one does, because also, I'm not being sold to him. We're just getting married.
Well, that's like, the thing that's always confused me about that, which I get where it came from. You know, there's a lot of history there, which the point of this podcast isn't necessarily to go into the history, it's just where this has led us now. And like, I get there's a lot of history there, but our society has progressed a lot, and I think we can keep progressing, and I think that's one of those things that is good that we keep moving forward in. And like, I think about that now, and I'm like, you're an adult. Like, you're an adult. I'm an adult. When I get married, I will still be an adult. I don't think I need my parents to do that, right? Like, sure, again, there's no judgment on anyone making any decisions, and I will probably do that as well, because I like the idea of that, but not the idea of being given away. Yeah. Because I'm an adult, that was my decision to make. And I think that's part of my issue with it too, is like it sort of takes away your responsibility in it, right? It feels like that decision is almost put on someone else. So it's not me deciding to marry this person, it's also my parents deciding for me.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, that's where it came from,
Yeah.
because, you know, the dads would make that transaction.
Yes.
It had nothing to do with love. It was a transaction for the families to be together that would, whatever benefit that would bring them.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like, that's where that came from. So, okay, so you guys also talked about anyone objects. So, I don't know.
There's not even any history to it. I just thought it was really funny because the idea that you're like, literally, this is your moment. Like, everyone just is like crying because you're so beautiful and your relationship is so wonderful. No, everyone else is. I wouldn't be crying because they're so
I
sad.
get that,
they're not
but
in a
like,
relationship. They're just
crying because you're so beautiful.
And then someone is just like,
I won't be crying.
no. And it's like some random person, like, anyone can object. What if they just walked in off the street? Anyways, I don't know the history of it even. It's just really weird.
Okay, and then vows. You guys had vows. You guys want to talk about
Did you
vows?
find the vows, Kelly? Do you know what it says?
It's on you.
Listen, this is a lot of pressure. Because there are different vows.
Yes.
There are different,
Yeah, there are like the
versions.
traditional vows that a lot of people still have. I think it's more probably people in the church. Like, there's like sort of traditional traditional vows. I know that was something else that, like, Dad and I did, is like we wrote our own vows. Like, you know, and they were quite different. I don't remember them, but
I mean,
you know, they were quite different. And that was what we wanted. Like, we wanted like our own words to be said.
Yeah.
So, but that was like really different at that time to do that. But,
Right.
okay, well, let's keep going. And so, Mr. and Mrs.
Oh, that's a big one.
Stop. I literally, like, I get, like, angry thinking about it. Like, this is
Yeah.
the one part of it that I'm like, ugh, like, I'm fuming.
Rage? Maybe that's the
A little bit of rage.
Well, and it's interesting when we've talked before, this is one of the things that I've seen that doesn't change. Like, we've talked about this before, that, like, our society has progressed, people have progressed in their ideas, right? Like, people wear colored wedding dresses,
Yeah.
people will walk down the aisle by themselves with multiple parents, like, things have changed. That's one of the things I don't really see many people changing, though.
Same with, well, last name and then the whole, like, just anything to do with the last name.
Yeah.
And I think that has to do with, I think it has to do with, like, pride and men's pride.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a
See
sense
that.
of, like, pride in a lot of people to, you know, have your significant other take your last name, but more than that is to have your kids take your last name.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's the whole thing of having a son, and he's gonna keep your line going, whatever.
We have to do a podcast on that, too.
There's so many.
Goodness.
And I think part of it is just, like, you know, a lot of people don't know the history of it, but I think a lot of it is that pride of, like, you know, I want my son to have my name. I want my children to have my name. And I think a lot in our society, men's feelings are valued over women's feelings. And I think this is one of those scenarios.
Well, I know there's talk, like, because one of the things that they say then is that, and I was literally having a conversation, I was hearing about this just the other day, that someone was saying that, for example, like, if there's no, like, son born, then the name dies
Yeah.
Yeah.
with them.
That's what I thought when I was younger. I was like, at least we have Grin.
Oh
I guess we're not gonna have a boy.
Wow.
And then I was like, at least we have one boy.
Jeez.
I mean, I remember people saying that, too.
Yeah.
Like, before
Wow.
you had Graydon, it was like, I don't know, maybe the line will stop.
Which I understand they're talking
Wow.
about I understand they're talking about like the last name. Well, the last name is gonna stop, but I do take it as kind of like a slap in the face.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of saying that like your girls are just not as worthy as your boys, and that's really what it comes back to. And even if they don't mean it like that, that is how most girls would take it. That's how I took it. Of well, I guess I'm just not as important. I guess I'm just not as valuable to our family, to like whatever, to the world. Yeah,
really, because you are like, you're carrying on that name for that family.
Yeah.
You know, because I remember we were asked like all the time, because you know obviously we had you 3.
Yeah.
And so it was like, well, are you gonna keep trying for a boy?
I remember hearing that from people too.
Like, and then when we found out we were, you know, I mean, then we were expecting twins, but like, oh, good thing you got one boy in there. Like, you know, and like, oh, I bet Brian's so excited he's gonna have a boy, and it's like, well, not that he's not excited. Like, it was such a hard thing, because he was like, well, of course I'm excited, but I'm also excited and I value my girls. Like, it's like this either or choice.
Yeah.
Which is really sad, because
totally.
I think it, you know, there's a lot of families that I know that because of that thinking, there's a lot of damage done to girls.
Totally.
Yeah.
There's so many, like, if the oldest is a girl, like, that becomes a bad thing.
Yeah,
totally. And often, I have a very good friend of mine who, like, she ended up taking on that sort of male role in the family. She shortened her name to be more masculine, because of, like, it was really toxic in her home. And that was a piece of it, was for that reason. Because, like, just trying to be accepted, you know, and, like, I don't, you know, again, it's not that anyone does this on purpose, but if we can question these things, and what's the reason, what's behind this?
Well, and I think that's, like, a perfect point to this whole, the whole reason why we wanted to talk about these things in weddings, because, like, when you think about it, wearing a white wedding dress, is it really that big of a deal? Like, the act of wearing a white wedding dress, is that really that big of a deal?
Yeah.
Maybe not. Changing your last name, I think it's a big deal, but maybe it's not that big of a deal to some people. Maybe it's not a huge deal. But the fact is that it's not the action necessarily, it's what people take from it.
Yes.
Because I know what I took from it, and I know what a lot of little girls take from it. And it is just another signal to women that you are not as important. You are not as valuable. You are whatever. And I think it's just, like, even, like, the last name thing, I always saw it as, like, well, I guess I'm just, like, not as valuable. My feelings are not as important, and I think I remember it showed me that, like, well, men's feelings and men's wants are going to be put above my own.
Yeah.
And so, again, that's why I'm like, I don't care if you wear a white wedding dress, because that's not the issue.
Yeah.
And a white wedding dress is not going to harm anyone, but the history behind it and the message it conveys, that is the harm that comes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly what you said. Like, that was the whole reason for this podcast, is examining these things that we don't really think about, that are just, that don't really mean anything to us, and seeing how it was taken. You know, like, because, great, like, there are lots of things that we will discuss further, too, that, like, the intention when that was said, when that idea was created, may not have been bad. You know, like, their intention may have been great. Yeah. But sometimes that doesn't translate, right? So, like, we will get situations where it will actually really hurt someone, you know, and we don't know that unless we question these ideas.
Yeah. Like, I just think, not that intention doesn't matter, because of course it matters. I just think that impact matters a lot more than intention.
Yes.
And we need to really pay attention to the impact. Because that is what is really affecting people. Like, what you meant by what you were saying, like, that doesn't really matter if someone didn't take it like that.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that, like I've always said to you guys, like, you know, like, if you say something and the other person says, well, that, you know, that hurt, and you're like, well, but I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
So it should be all fine. Like, you know, and I'd be like, well, but that person is hurt. Would you like to apologize? Well, why do I apologize? Because I didn't mean it that way. And I'm, you know, I'm like, okay, well, that's great. You didn't mean it to hurt them, because that would be another entire conversation if you actually meant it to hurt that person. However, the fact is that it did hurt them. And what do you feel that happened?
Yeah.
You know, like that. And that's where, like, I just see so much, like, in the world and stuff. We just need more empathy.
Yeah.
We need more empathy to be open to question and to allow people to question and to allow people to have these conversations, and that they're not made good or bad.
Yeah.
But it's like, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
And what you might decide will may be very different than what you decide. Might be very different than you decide and anyone else, and that should be okay.
Yeah.
That should be okay. And then the other thing too that, like, came up the other time when we were talking was, and not having to go into this huge long explanation as to trying to convince that other person of why this is a really good thing for you, why you just made this decision. You know, it's just, you know, I looked into it. This is what I've decided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, just to finish, I think what came to me too when you two were talking, there's this saying that I love, and I'm gonna, like, butcher it. There's, this woman who has a YouTube channel, she has a podcast, and she talks a lot about, like, religion and sexuality and all this stuff, and, like, coming out of these ideas. And there's something that she says a lot that I love so much. It's about there's a verse in the Bible that talks about sowing and reaping. What you sow, you shall reap. And she talks about these things that, you know, like, with these great intentions or whatever. You know, like, we put things out into the world, and the problem is we just don't look at the fruit of this. And so that's kind of how you can see if something is positive or negative, or if something is helping our society or not, is by looking at the fruit. So what is the impact? What is coming from this? Because you can't really argue with that, right? There are things in our society that, you know, like, you bully someone. Well, the fruit of that is they're probably going to be hurt. You know, like, there's all these things. They will
probably continue bullying someone else.
Yeah. So, like, I think it's important to look at that.
And you can say all day long that, well, it's not doing harm. It's just an opinion. They're just words. They shouldn't hurt you. They shouldn't cause damage. But it doesn't really matter what you think it should do, or what you think other people should do with what you're saying, or, like, anything. Because if it's causing harm, it's causing harm. It doesn't really matter if you think it's not.
Okay, so we have another one that you guys brought up.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited.
Okay, which one is that?
Go for it, Jillian.
Me?
Yeah.
Why? The garter.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought it said garter.
I don't know if I spelled it right, but
you
Yeah,
said
garter.
I don't think
You
so.
thought it said garter?
And this one, I don't even, like,
says
I guys have
garter.
such an issue with this, and I'm like,
it's so
but
weird.
again, that was, like, one of those things that just happened.
It's so
And
weird.
I guess this is a perfect one that, like, especially compared to some of the other ones that we've talked about, that it's not a good or bad thing. It's not, like, it's not necessarily a bad thing, just, like, it's what, you know, what lands for you.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, so the tradition, if anyone doesn't actually know, because, like, I don't think you guys knew until, I don't even know when, like.
We watched your wedding video, I think.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
then
Maybe not.
I saw
Yeah, maybe
Mama
probably.
had one, and I was like,
I was
no,
shocked.
you didn't.
That's our grandma. Our grandma had one.
Our grandma, and, like, you know, all, like, they're very traditional, and like
Very
everyone around us
traditional.
was very traditional, and even even you,
Yeah.
I was like, you let this happen at your wedding? Like, y'all weren't even barely allowed to show your calf, and yet
Yeah,
you were allowed to
exactly.
pull up your freaking dress and like, what?
You didn't pull it up.
He just went under.
Yeah,
He just
tunneled
hopped
under.
under. He went, oh, where is
In
it?
front of
Especially
like the
your
all
dress.
couple hundred people.
Ew,
Like
all
all your
your
super religious family.
Your mom is watching, and he's
Yeah.
literally under your
Like you've never done anything.
nothing.
Like these religious people that like go into marriage as virgins, and then your husband is literally under
He's
your
like, hey,
dress. What?
it's a little pregame.
Editing this.
It was funny. Anyway,
So the garter, for anyone that doesn't actually know, is
what is it?
when like it has like this elastic piece that you wear around your leg, and
It's
usually
really cute,
it's up on
actually.
your thigh, and you know, because you always have something new, something blue, something whatever, and a garter was always part of that tradition. I have no idea where it ever started or whoever, you know, where it came from. Yeah, that'd be interesting. So, but you always had this on at the reception after you're married, like in all this, at the reception. Part of it was then that the husband then would go and get the garter off your leg.
She's sitting in front of everyone.
Just set
Yeah.
the scene.
She's sitting. Let me set the scene. She's sitting,
Okay.
like surrounded by all of her guests, her religious family, her friends, all of her husband's male friends. She sits on a chair. All
He
virginly. He freaking tunnels under her huge ball gown.
It was a really big
What?
dress.
Rips it off with his teeth, pretty much.
That's what some of them do.
They
Once.
whip it out with their teeth. They pull it out and then whip it around, and all
Yeah.
the men go, yeah.
Well, what they do with it is they always, the guy faces away,
Yeah.
and then they shoot it back, and
That's
then
so embarrassing.
whoever catches it
Is gonna have sex
technically
next.
going to be.
Oh.
No.
Sorry.
Goodness.
Okay, what were you gonna say?
That's a good in religious
next one
communities.
to get, well, it might be like the next one to get married.
Oh.
Oh.
Wait, what?
It's like the
know
okay.
It's the same as the flowers.
Yeah.
Okay, but flowers is so cute and innocent, and then you're just like,
The guy like slingshots the garter.
That
Oh my
image is
God.
so
Hit them in the
that's
degrading.
head.
so degrading. I feel humiliated thinking about it.
I know.
So let's dive in.
Yeah.
Just like he dove into her dress.
Oh my goodness.
I need to stop.
We're gonna watch the bloopers this time.
Okay, let's talk.
I'm gonna sing.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Wait,
Okay.
what?
What? Let's talk about it.
Okay. Okay, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What's the issue with this? What is the issue with this?
Okay, I'll take
Go
this.
take it.
Okay, so oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start with this.
It's too much.
This is a tradition, you know, like that people just do and don't question and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like I remember hearing this for the first time, and I mean we've already discussed this, like being shocked and like horrified that people do this. Like the image of this. So like I imagine myself, you know, in that position, getting married at the reception, whatever, and I'm in front of all my family, and he's gonna go under my dress in front of
Yeah.
everyone and pull this like piece of clothing
Yeah.
off of me and throw it to all of his friends. So there's like a few things with this. One is like, oh my I literally
I
don't even
think
know how to
it's
explain
again.
the issues
I
of this.
think it's again another piece of dehumanizing like women,
Yeah.
and how you're kind of just like a prop for men's entertainment. That's not funny. That's actually serious. I was being serious about that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I just think it's like, and again, like the act of it. Okay, like, you know, if you're a freaky couple or something and want to like make people laugh or something,
Okay.
that's not the issue. The issue is more just like, again, the things that like women have faced and women do face, in our world, I just think it really presents this like this perfect analogy, a perfect image of how women are treated just in general in our society, of how like you're just kind of this prop. Like, I think that's
Well,
the
nothing
perfect
comes
word for it.
off. Actually, like nothing comes off the guy.
That's the thing.
Like,
Yes,
It's
exactly.
actually the woman's garter that goes to the men, other
Yeah.
guys, single guys.
Ooh.
And it's
I
her
know.
bouquet that goes to all the single women.
And I think it shows
Which is
too how
interesting.
Yeah.
throwing your flowers to a bunch of girls, that's so innocent and like sweet and totally fine.
Yeah.
And the guys is just like, again, not that that's bad because it's a bit like risque or whatever. It's more just like because of the way they do it and stuff and the act of it and whatever. But I just do think that it's interesting that like the women's is so just like innocent and cute.
Yes.
And his is this like
Well, I think degrading is a perfect word for how that feels to me. Right? Like, it's your day, right? Like, this is about you and your spouse. First, I wanted to preface this with, like, obviously all of this has to do with, like, a straight marriage. Like, these
Yes, I
things
was
that
gonna
we're
say
talking
that.
about,
yeah.
like, we're talking about, like, a woman and a man getting married.
and
So,
I
like-
think it's important because like very like
Not that these only apply to straight marriages, that's just what we've been talking about. And this doesn't only apply to straight
no,
people, but
I just think also a lot of this is put on, like, I think we're talking about like straight relationships specifically because like we're talking about very traditional values, like very traditional religious weddings. And a lot of those very religious, very traditional weddings would be a man and a woman. I think you can also see the full like picture of damage done when you can see the woman and the man, but this can apply to literally any relationship. I just think this is like the perfect example is a man, like a straight relationship, but it could be like if you're gay and you're like, oh, I totally relate to this, like I feel it, that is, I mean, it's not awesome because this
Totally
kind of
valid.
sucks, but yes,
it's
valid.
Like, those
Yes.
are valid feelings. But yeah, I just like,
Yeah, that was
because
a good
these
point.
things, like you were saying, are very, like, in the church, placed on straight relationships because they only express straight relationships.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the only relationships that they.
Yeah, like you're not gonna see
Show.
like a gay couple getting married in a super traditional tiny little church very often,
unfortunately.
which sucks. But like, you know,
Yes.
so
So now we can keep going.
go on.
Yeah, the garter. It's just very degrading. I think. I don't even know why, but I think like
Oh.
it's just kind of gross. It feels.
Yeah, I
gross
had a
to
thought.
me.
I had a thought because I think it's because like I was saying, I was trying to think of, well, I don't think doing something like risky or like whatever like that is a bad thing. So I was like, what? Like, why do I have such a bad feeling about it? And I think it's because it really has nothing to do with the woman. Like, she's not really
Yeah.
a part of it. She's, again, like a prop, like I said.
That's a
She
perfect
doesn't really
example.
have
Yeah.
a piece of it. And to me, it just feels like, we were saying earlier, like, it feels like a testosterone fest.
Yes.
Like, just a bunch of men being like, yeah, like, whatever,
Well, it's
you know?
really, it's taking a piece of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not her giving it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an interesting image.
And
What you were saying
only,
about.
yeah,
Her.
yeah.
That's a piece of her clothing that's gone.
Yeah,
And going to his
he's
guy
taking
friends.
it.
And only, and
Yeah.
his guy friends, and that's the part that really, is the bigger part even, is that all of him and his guy friends are like this prideful, like, super,
Yeah.
like, yeah, you did it, dude. And she's just kind of left there, like, I would assume embarrassed, because I would be
Yeah.
embarrassed.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I think that is, like, a big piece of the issue, is that she's not expressing this, like, whatever, like, raunchy, funny moment with her
Yes.
new husband. She's, like, just being kind of used to for like their pride or their laughs or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about that, like that tradition, then like especially being in a traditional, like say church or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's it's really
right.
kind of
No, that's why I was so confused because I was like our grandma, literally a pastor's wife.
Yeah.
Like, and when did they get married? Like back in the
70s.
Back in the
1970s.
70s. Like, this is. I was just like, what? Like, this doesn't sound like something
you wouldn't
a
expect
pastor would do.
No. Definitely not.
I was like, huh? Like, you were allowed to do that? And like in a church.
Yeah.
Or something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not in a church. I don't know. But you know,
we got married in a church.
the idea of it. So. Yeah.
So really, like, let's sort of bring it all together here as to, really like when we talked about like sort of like who do we want to be though, like where's sort of the end goal of this conversation. And from what you guys had said, really sort of an end goal would be that just like first of all we just want to be informed and be able to make your own decision.
Yeah.
Like that's sort of like the end, sort of
well, like Jillian had said earlier, I think, that she said like you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
You are not obligated to do these things. And if someone is pressuring you to do those things, especially if it's your spouse, that's a bit of a red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Well, yeah, I think the thing with this, and again, just like the whole purpose of this podcast is just to enable us, one, to question these things and realize that we don't have to believe these things. We don't have to do any of these things. And also, I think, like, when I think about my future, maybe getting married at some point, it empowers me to know the history behind these things so that, sure, I may decide to wear a white wedding dress, but I will know the history there and I can make an informed decision instead of just, well, I'm just going to wear white because this is what it is. And then I find out later, oh, wow, this actually holds a huge significance in our society that I may not have been okay with. I may have decided to not wear a white dress if I'd known that.
And I think what's interesting too is that like we get to make these decisions.
Yes.
And it's going to be different for all of us. Like I there's a lot of things in marriage that I've decided I don't want to do. Like I don't want to take his last name. I want both of us to maybe join our last names or something. But there are things that I will do. And like I know that there are people who are like, I don't want to even get married because I don't want to be a part of that system.
Yeah.
But obviously I want to get married one day. Like these are all things that whatever level you're comfortable with. Like maybe someone will be like, you know what? I don't even want to be a part of this system. And that's fine. And some people are going to be like, I do, and whatever. So I think we have a cool opportunity that I think we don't realize that we have this opportunity that you get to choose what you do. You get to choose how you live your life and the decisions you make. And I mean, not always, but if you can, you get to.
Well, that's what I was going to say too. Like, we also do respect that not everyone's in a position where they can make a decision, right? Like, I mean, I know with weddings, like obviously whoever's paying for it, we've talked about this in our house, has a lot of control. And I just would hope that everyone making whatever decision they're making, they would feel empowered to do that.
Well, and I mean, that's one thing, because that's one of the reasons why I told you guys, I said, like, just one of my pieces of advice is be in a position that you pay for your wedding. Not because, like, we wouldn't want to help you, and we would, but, like, part of that is, like, I know that I won't have strings attached, but, like, I understand the strings that come when someone pays.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it's just, like, that's just one of those other things that, you know, that was always, like, there was certain traditions that, like, the bride's family paid for the wedding dress, and they paid for the meal, the reception meal, they paid, like, there was very specific things that still are pretty specific as to, like, this is the, you know, the bride's family's duties and what they pay for. This is the groom's family's duties. Like, you know, and that's one thing that, like, you know, when we got married, it was pretty split. But usually, like, the bride's family paid for most of it.
Wow.
Generally, usually.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I thought I thought it was the bride's family pays for everything. Like,
Well,
that's
it
what I
was
just heard.
pretty much.
It's
yeah,
the bride's
Why?
family, and I was like,
Wow.
why
Wait,
the
what?
bride family?
Well, I guess
Now we have to
to
experience
me,
misogyny and being broke? Are you kidding me?
Oh my goodness.
well, I'm
then your
guessing
husband
it
will be
probably just my own,
Oh.
like, okay, just total, like, random, I have no clue on this one, just my own ideas, but because for years and years there was always the dowry,
Yeah.
so I'm
Yeah.
guessing that sort of is what it turned into, was then the bride's family just pays for everything.
That would make
maybe.
sense.
That makes sense.
Which,
I'm
to
so
me,
pissed off about that.
whole idea of the dowry, like, all of that, to me, I was like, so you're literally paying someone to take me. You're paying someone to, like,
Goodness.
anyways, I mean, that didn't happen to me,
Yeah.
but, like, that thinking, though, but,
Oh my goodness, we find out now that he, like, paid for you?
We're like,
like,
we might need to move
So-
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
let's not do that.
Problems
But-
there.
anyways, but that's
Yeah.
the, you know, the whole thing of just that questioning, like, questioning is fantastic. And I think, like, what you were saying, like, just that questioning of, you know, a different way of saying it is, what serves me, what is what will serve me at this time.
Yeah.
And if you decide that, like, wearing a white wedding dress will serve you because that's just what you want to do, then fantastic. And if you know, taking a name, but the whole sort of purpose and point is that to question and make your own decisions.
And so we can, and also so we can unpack the harm that some of these things do. I think a lot of us don't realize the harm that a lot of these ideas can do, and when you start unpacking it, at least I start seeing it.
Yeah.
And
Well, they've kept a lot of ideas and ideals and going over all the years.
Well,
totally.
and I think it also helps me, at least, to understand myself better.
Yeah.
Like, when I question these things, when I think about, you know, all these beliefs that I've just accepted, I understand my behavior and how I react to things more. You know, and that's what I also wanted just to add to the, I hope everyone does what serves them. I also wanted to say with that I understand not being able to make a decision that will serve you. Right? So, like, if you're in a position where you want to do something, but you feel like you can't because of family or whatever's going on, I also hope you feel empowered in that, because that's okay to also decide that you're not ready to make that decision, to, like, go against that.
Yeah.
Well, and in that moment, that is what would have served them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I feel like people
So-
then, like, I've done this, I will look back at my past and be like, why didn't I, you know, like, why did I do that? I didn't feel good doing that, but it's like, I did in that moment what I needed to do. Like, I wasn't ready to stand up for myself there.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Well, I
Right.
think we've come to a close again.
I think we've unpacked all
Well,
of marriage.
We unpacked
Okay.
Apparently.
Everything.
Apparently
Just
we
we're
did the
done.
whole thing.
It's all done. Although we did open up a few more cans of worms
Oh
throughout
my
there. We'll have to go back and
Yes.
listen to our own
Oh my.
recordings
Just
to
writing
see,
notes.
which
Yeah.
ones.
Like, we're like, oh, we'll do this, but
Yeah.
they're, like, gonna forget, and we're not gonna do it, and they're like,
Oh my goodness.
Hello? Yeah, we were
Also-
waiting.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
been waiting for, like, months.
So
Oh,
again, though, we have all social media.
Yeah, we'll link all
Yeah.
social media in, I don't know, description or
What
I don't
social
know.
media?
however this works. We'll
Don't
link
even know
it
how this
somewhere.
works.
Well, can you even do that with podcasts?
List,
I don't
list
know.
off the social media.
We have TikTok. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Instagram. We have YouTube. We have
The podcast.
Yeah.
So?
And they're
Yeah.
all the official
The
WWP.
official WWP.
Yeah.
Well, then you
Yes.
guys were like,
Oh, right.
actually, let's change it to Wait What, and then
Well, okay, the
This is-
podcast is called Wait What, but
Yeah.
all of the what is it?
Usernames.
Yeah,
What's her name?
all
Y'all,
the usernames are
the
the
username
official
was a-
Wait What.
was a
Because
hike
on
up
TikTok,
amount.
it's like
It was
the
hard.
official
Yes, it
WWP.
was.
I guess the one's like
One thing that we do want to start doing is we
Oh,
are
yeah.
going to start just doing some shout outs to small businesses, artists, whatever. We didn't have it together today. So, but we are going to do that. So if you want to send any names of small businesses, artists, so for today, I mean, it could be you because you're
shout out
Yay!
to all the millions of fans
Kaylee
out
Bree.
there watching.
Oh, you know me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you have stuff coming too.
Secret.
People
Recording,
will watch.
So
People will watch this
coming.
podcast, but not
So-
watch a commentary. Like, it's two different.
you never know.
I
You
do
never know. Anyways,
Right.
but we are going to be doing that too. So
Oh.
okay.
See you next week on
Wait, what? The potty.
the potty. See you next week on the potty. On the pod.
We're done. Stop.
Mm-hmm.